Chapter 24 of the Voyage of Eärendil and the War of Wraith. Bright Eärendil was then the lord of the people that dwelt nigh to Sirian's mouth. And he took the wife Elwing the fair, and she bore to him Elrond and Elros, who are called the half-elven. Yet Eärendil could not rest, and his voyage about the shore of Hitherlands eased not his anchoret. Hitherlands means the south region of Middle-earth. Two processes grew in his heart, plunged as one in longing for the wide sea. He sought to sail therein, seeking after Tur and Eärendil who returned not, and he thought to find perhaps the last shore, and bring ere he died the message of elves and men to the Valar in the west, that should move their hearts to pity for sorrows of Middle-earth. Now Eärendil became fast in friendship with Círdan, the shipwright, who dwelt in the Isle of Valar, with those of his people who escaped from the sack of the havens of Brithombur. And Iglarest, with the aid of Círdan, Eärendil built the Vingilot, the form flower, fairest of the ships of song. Golden were its oars, and white its timbers, hewn in the birchwood of Nimberithal. Oars means the battles, while timbers means the wood, or that made by. And its sails were as the argent moon in the lay of Eärendil. Argent here means silver moon. In the lay of Eärendil is many things sung on his adventures in the deep, and in the land untrodden, and in many seas, and in many isles. But Elwing was not with him, and she sat in sorrow by the mouths of Sirion. Eärendil found not Tur nor Eärendil, nor came he ever on the journey to the shores of Valinor, defeated by shadow and enchantment, driven by repealing winds. Repealing here means cancel or revoke. That's until in longing for Elwing he returned homeland towards the coast of Beleriand, and his heart bade him haste, for a sudden fear has fallen on him out of the dreams, and the wounds that before he had striven with the might not now bear him back as swift as his desire. Now when first the tidings came to Maedhros that Elwing yet lived and dwelt in possession of the Silmaril by the mouth of Sirion, he repenting of the deeds in Doriath withheld his hand. But in time the knowledge of their oath unfulfilled returned to torment him and his brothers, and gathering from their wandering hunting path they sent messages to haven of friendship and yet of stern demand, or serious demand. Then Elwing and the people of Sirion would not yield the jewel of Beren and had won, and Lúthien had won, and for which the fair was slain, and least of all while Eärendil their lord was on the sea, for it seemed to them that in the Silmaril they lay the healing and the blessing that had come upon their houses and their ships. And so there came to pass the last and cruelest of the slaying of elf by elf, and that was the third of the great wrongs achieved by the accursed oath. For the sons of Valinor that yet lived came down suddenly upon the exiles of Gondolin and the remnant of Doriath and destroyed them. In that battle some of their people stood aside, and some few repelled and were slain, upon the other part aiding Elwing against their own lords, for such was the sorrow and confusion in the hearts of the Eldar in those days. But Maedhros and Marlor win the day, though they alone remained thereafter of the sons of Valinor, for both Amrod and Amras were slain. Too late the ships of Círdan and Gil-galad the High King came hastening to the aid of the elves of Sirion, and Elwing was alone, and his sons. Then such few of that people as did not perish in the Azul joined themselves to Gil-galad and went with him to Valar. And they told the Elros and Elrond were taken captive, but Elwing with the Silmaril upon her breast had cast herself into the sea. Thus Maedhros and Magla gained not the jewel, but it was not lost, for Olmo bore up Elwing out of the waves, and he gave her the likeness of a great white bird, and upon her breast there shone a star, the Silmaril, as she flew over the water to seek Eärendil her beloved. On a time of night, Eärendil at the helm of the ship, his ship, saw her come towards him. Helm here means the steer our lead, at the front of his ship. as a white cloud exceeding swift beneath the moon, as a star over the sea moving in a strange course, a pale flame on wings of storm, and sang that she fell from the air upon the timbers of Vingelot. In a swoon, nigh unto death for the urgency of her speed, and Eärendil took her to his bosom, his chest. But in the morning with the marveling eyes, he beheld his wife in her arm from beside him, with her hair upon his face, and she slept. Great was the sorrow of Eärendil and Elwing for the ruin of the havens of Sirion, and the captivity of their son, and they feared that they would be slain. But it was not so, for Magnor took pity upon Elros and Elrond, and he cherished them, and love grew after between them, as a little might be thought. But Magnor's heart was sick and weary with the burden of the dreadful oath. Yet Eärendil saw now no hope left in the lands of Middle-earth, and he turned again in despair, and came not home, but sought back once more to Valinor with the Elwing at his side. He stood now most often to the prow of Vingelot. Prow here means the position of ship bow above water. And the Silmarillion was bound upon his brow. Brow means forehead, and ever its light grew greater as they do to the west. And the wise have said that it was by reason of the power of the holy jewel that they came in times to water that no vessel save those of the artillery had known. And they came to the enchanted isle and escaped their enchantment. And they came into the shadowy seas and passed their shadow. And they looked upon Tul Erisia, the lonely isle, but tarried not. And at last they cast anchor in the bay of Eldamar, and the artillery saw them the coming of the ship out of the east, and they were amazed, gazing from afar upon the light of the Silmaril, and it was very great. Then Eärendil, fairest of living men, landed on the mortal shores, and he spoke there to Elwing and to the to Elwing and to those that were with him, and there were three mariners who had sailed all the seas beside him. Faladar, Eärendil, and Eärendil were their names. And Eärendil said to them, Here none but myself shall set foot, lest you fall under the wrath of the Valar. But the peril I will take on myself alone, for the sake of the two kindreds. But Elwing answered, Then would our path be sundered forever, but all the perils I will take on myself also. And she leaped into the white foam and ran towards him. But Eärendil was sorrowful, for he feared the anger of the lords of the west upon any of the Middle-earth that should dare to pass, the leaguer of Aman. And there they bade farewell to the companions of their voyage, and were taken from them forever. Then Eärendil said to Elwing, Await me here, for one only may bring the message that's my fate to bear. And he went up alone in the land, and came into Calacaria, and it seemed to him empty and silent. For even as Morgoth and Engorned came in age past, so now Eärendil had come at the time of festival, and well nigh all the elven folk were gone to Valimar, or were gathered in the halls of Manwë upon Tranquil, and a few were left to keep watch upon the walls of Tirion. But some there were who saw him from afar, and the great light that he bore, and they went in haste to Valimar. But Eärendil climbed the green hill of Tuna, and found it pale, and he entered into the streets of Tirion, and they were empty, and his heart was heavy, for he feared that some evil had come even to the blessed realm. Here he walked in the desert's way of Tirion, and the dust upon his raiment and his shoes was dust of diamonds, and he shone and glistened as he climbed the long white stairs, and he called aloud in many tongues, both of the elves and men, but there were none to answer him. Therefore he turned back at the last towards the sea. But even as he took the shoreward road on, one stood upon the hill and called to him in a great voice, crying, Hail, Eärendil, of mariners most renowned, the looked for the cometh at unawareness, the long for the cometh beyond hope. Hail, Eärendil, barrier of light before the sun and moon, splendor of the children of earth, star in the darkness, jewel in the sunset, radiant in the morning. The voice was the voice of Anwe, herald of Manwë, and he came from Valinor, and summoned Eärendil to come before the bowers of Arda. And Eärendil went into Valinor and to the halls of Valimar, and never again set foot upon the lands of men. Then the Valar took counsel together, and they summoned Olmo from the deeps of the sea. And Eärendil stood before their faces, and declared the errand of the two kindreds. Pardon he asked for the Noldor, and pity for their great sorrow, and mercy upon men and elves, and succor and their need. Succor here means help. And his prayer was granted. It's told among the elves that after Eärendil had departed, seeking Elwing his wife, Mandor spoke concerning his fate, and he said, "Shall mortal man step living upon the undying land, and yet live?" But almost said, "For this he was born into the world, and say unto me, whether is he Eärendil to a son of the line of Hidor, or the son of Eärendil Turgon's daughter of the elven house of Finwë?" And Mandor answered, "Equally the Noldor, who went willfully into exile, may not return hither." But when all was spoken, Manwë gave judgment, and he said, "In this matter the power of the doom is given to me. The peril that he ventured for love of the two kindreds shall not fall upon Eärendil, nor shall it fall upon Elwing his wife, who entered into peril for love of him. But they shall not walk again ever among elves or men in the outer lands. And in this is my decree concerning them. To Eärendil and to Elwing and to their sons shall be given leave each to choose freely to which kindred their fate shall be joined, and under which kindred they shall be judged." Now when Eärendil was long time gone, Elwing became lonely and afraid, and wandering by the margin of the sea, and she came near to Alcolonde, where lay the Telerian fleets. There the Teleri befriended her, and they listened to her tales of Doriath and Gondolin, and the grief of Beleriand, and they were filled with pity and wonder. And their Eärendil returned found her at the haven of the Swan. But ere long they were summoned to Valinor, and there the decree of the Elder King was declared to them. Then Eärendil said to Elwing, "Choose thou for now. I am weary of the world." And Elwing chose to be judged among the firstborn of children of Ilúvatar, because of Lúthien, and for her sake Eärendil chose alike. Thus the heart was rather with the kindred of men and the people. Thus his heart was rather with the kindred of men and the people of his father. Then at bidding of the Valar, Onwë went to the shore of Aman, where the companions of Eärendil set remained, awaiting tidings. And he took a boat, and the 3 miners were set therein. And the Valar drove them away into the east with a great wind, but they took Vinglot and hollowed it, and they bore it away through Valinor to the uttermost rim of the world. And there it passed through the door of night, and was lifted up even into the oceans of heaven. Now fair and marvelous was that vessel made, and it was filled with the wavering flame, pure and bright. And Eärendil the mariner sat at the helm, glistening with dust of elven gems, and the Silmaril was bound upon his brow. For he journeyed in the ship even into the starless voids. But most often was he seen at morning or at evening, glimmering in sunrise or sunset, as he came back to Valinor from voyages beyond the confines of the world. On those journeys Elwing did not go, for she might not endure the cold and the pathless void, and she loved rather the earth and the sweet winds that blow on sea and hull. Therefore there was built for her a white tower northward upon the borders of sundering seas, and thither at times all the sea-bird of the earth prepared, and said that Elwing learned the tongue of the birds, who herself had once worn their shape, and they taught her the craft of light, and her wings were of white and silver grey. And at the times when Eärendil returning drew near again to Arda, she would fly to meet him, even as she had flown long ago, when she was secured from the sea. Then the far sight among the elves that dwelt in the lonely isle will see her like a white bird, shining rose-stained in the sunset, as she soared in joy to greet the coming of the Vingilot to haven. Now when fair Vingilot was set to sail in the seas of heaven, it was unlocked for, glittering and bright, and the people of Middle-earth beheld it from afar and wondered, and they took it for a sign, and called it Gil-Estil, the star of high hope. And when the new star was seen at evening, Maedhros spoke to Maegor, his brother, and he said, "Surely this is the Silmaril that shines now in the west?" And Maegor answered, "If it be truly the Silmaril which we saw cast into the sea, that rise again by the power of the Valar, then let us be glad, for its glory is seen now by many, and yet secure from all evil. Then the elves looked upon and despaired no longer, but Morgoth was filled with doubt. Yet it said that Morgoth looked not for the assault that come upon him from the west, for so great was his pride became that he demanded that none would ever again become with open war against him. Moreover, he thought that he had forever estranged the Noldor from the lords of the west, and he were content in their blissful realm, that Valar would heed no more his kingdom in the world without. For to him that is pitiless, the deeds of the pity are ever strange and beyond reckoning. But the most of the Valar prepared for battle. But the host of the Valar prepared for the battle. We can't hear conning means concerning, or considering, or estimating in mind. And beneath their white banners marched the Vanir, the people of Engwe, and those also of the Noldor who never departed from Valinor, whose leader was Finarfin, the son of Finwë. Few of the Teleri was willing to go forth to war, for they remembered the slaying at the Swan Haven, and the rape of their ships. But they hearkened to Elwing, who was the daughter of Tar-Ilochel, and come of their own kindred. And they sent miners enough to sail the ships that bore the host of Valinor east over the sea, yet they stayed aboard their vessels, and none of them set foot upon the hitherlands. Of the march of the host of the Valar to the north of Middle-earth, little is said in any tale, for among them went none of those elves who had dwelt and suffered in the hitherlands, and who made the histories of those days that still are known. And tidings of these things that they only learned long afterward from their kinfolk in Aman. But at the last the might of the Valinor came up of the west, and the challenge of the trumpet of Finwë filled the sky. And Beleriand was ablaze with the glory of their arms. Ablaze means burning. For the host of the Valar were arrayed in forms young and fair and terrible, and the mountains rank beneath their feet. The meeting of the host of the west and of the north is named the Great Battle, and the war of Wraith. There was marshalled the whole power of the throne of Morgoth, and had come great beyond count, so that Anfauglith could not contain it, and all the north was aflame with war. But it availed him not. The Balrog were destroyed, save some few that fled in the heat, and hid themselves in cavern, inaccessible in the roots of the earth. And the uncounted legions of the Oris perished like straw in a great fire, or were swept like shriveled leaves before burning wind. Shriveled means shrunk. Few remained to trouble the world for long years after, and such few as were left on the three houses of the elf friends, fathers of men, fought upon the part of the Valar, and they were avenged in those days for Baragond and Barahir, Galdr and Gondor, Hur and Húrin, and many of the others of their lords. But a great part of the sons of men, whether of the people of Aldor or other new come out of the east, marked with the enemy, and the elves do not forget it. Then seeing that his hosts were overthrown, and his power dispersed, Morgoth quailed, and he dared not to come forth himself, but he loosened upon his foes the last desperate assault that he had prepared. And out of the pits of Angband there issued the winged dragons that had not before been seen. And so sudden and ruinous was the onset of the dreadful fleet that the host of the Valar was driven back, for the coming of the dragons was with a great thunder and lightning and trumpets of fire. It's storm of fire here means. But Eärendil came shining with the white flame, and about Fingilot were gathered all the great birds of heaven, and Thorondor was their captain, and there was battle in the air all the day and through a dark night of doubt. Before the rising of the sun, Eärendil slew Encalagon, the black, the mightiest of the dragon host, and cast him from the sky. and he fell upon the towers of Thangorodrim, and they were broken in his ruin. Then the sun rose, and the house of the Valar prevailed, and well nigh all the dragons were destroyed, and all the bits of Morgoth were broken and unroofed, and the might of the Valar descended into the deeps of the earth. There Morgoth stood at last at bay, and yet unviolent. He had fled into the deepest of his mines, and sued for a beast and burden, but his feet were hewn from under him, and he was hurled upon his face. Then he was bound with the chain of Angainor, which he had worn aforetime, and his iron crown they beat into a collar for his neck, and his head was bowed upon his knees, and the two Silmarils which remained to Morgoth were taken from his crown, and they shone unsullied beneath the sky, and Finwë took them and guarded them. Unsullied means unspoiled. Thus an end was made of the power of Angband in the north, and the evil realm was brought to naught. And out of the deep prisons a multitude of slaves came forth beyond all hope into the light of the day, and they looked upon the world that was changed, for so great was the fury of those adversaries, that the northern region of the western world were rent asunder, and the sea rolled in through many chasms, and there was confusion and a great noise, and rivers perished or found a new path, and the valleys were upheaved, and the hills stood down, and Sirin was no more. Then Finwë, as herald of the elder king, summoned the elves of Beleriand to depart from Middle-earth. But Maedhros and Maglor would not hearken, and they prepared, though now with weariness and loathing, to attempt in despair the fulfillment of their oath, for they would have given battle for the Silmarils, where they withheld even against the victorious host of Valinor, even though they stood alone against all the world. And they sent a message therefore to Finwë, bidding him yield up now those jewels which of the old Fëanor their father made and Morgoth stole from him. But Finwë answered that the right to the work of their fathers, which the sons of Fëanor formerly possessed, had now perished because of their many and merciless deeds, being blinded by their oath, and most of all because of their slaying of tarried as result upon the haven. The light of the Silmarils should go now into the west, whence it came in the beginning, and to Valinor must Maedhros and Maglor return. And there abide the judgment of the Valar, by whose decree alone will Finwë yield the jewels from his charge. Then Maglor desired indeed to submit, for his heart was sorrowful, and he said, the oath says not that we may not wait our time, he means. And it may be that in Valinor all shall be forgiven and forgot, and we shall come into our own in peace. But Maedhros answered that if they returned to Aman, but the favor of the Valar were withheld from them, then their oath will still remain, but its fulfillment be beyond all hope. And he said, who can tell to that what dreadful doom we shall come, if we disobey the power in their own land? Our purpose ever to bring war again into their holy realm? Yet Maglor still held back, saying, if Manwë and Varda themselves denied the fulfillment of an oath to which we named themselves in witness, it's not made void. Witness here means a person who sees an event. Yes. And Maedhros answered, but now shall our voices reach to Ilúvatar beyond the circles of the world, and by Ilúvatar we soar in our madness, and call the everlasting darkness upon us. If we kept not our word, who shall release us? If none can release us, said Maglor, then indeed the everlasting darkness shall be our lot. Here our lot, he means a great deal. Whether we keep our oath or break it, but less evil shall we do in the breaking. Yet he yielded at last to the will of Maedhros, and they took counsel together how they should lay hands on the Silmaril. And they disguised themselves and came in the night to the camp of Eärendil, and crept into the place where the Silmaril were guarded. And they slew the guards, and laid hands upon the jewel, and all the camp was raised against them, and they were prepared to die, defending themselves until the last. But Eärendil will not permit the slaying of the sons of Valinor, and departing unfought, they fled far away. Each of them took to himself a Silmaril, for they said, since one is lost to us, and but two remain, and we two alone of our brothers, so explain that fate would have us share the heirlooms of our father. Heirlooms means the inheritance of valuable objects. But the jewel burned the hand of Maedhros in pain unbearable, and he perceived that it was as Eärendil had said, and that his right there had become void, and that the oath was vain. And being in anguish and despair, he cast himself into a gaping chasm filled with fire, and so ended. And the Silmaril that he bore was taken into the bosom of the earth. And told of Maglor that he could not endure the pain with which the Silmaril tormented him, and he cast it at last into the sea. And thereafter he wandered ever upon the shore, singing in pain and regret beside the waves. For Maglor was mighty among the singers of old, named only after j.r.r of Doriath. But he came never back among the people of the elves, and thus it came to pass that the Silmaril found their long homes, one on the airs of heaven, and one in the fires of the heart of the world, and one in the deep water. In those days there was a great building of ships upon the shores of the western sea, and thence in many a fleet of the Eärendil set sail into the west, and came never back to the lands of weeping and of war. And the Vanir returned beneath their white banners, and they were borne in triumph to Valinor, but their joy in victory was diminished, for they returned without the Silmaril from Morgoth's crown, and they knew that those jewels could not be found or brought together again unless the road be broken and remade. And when they came into the west, the elves of Beleriand dwelt upon Tul Eressëa, the lonely isle that looks both west and east, whence they might come even to come even to Valinor. They were admitted again to the love of Manwë and the burden of the Valar, and the tarried forgave their ancient grief, and the curse was laid to rest. Yet not all the elderly were willing to forsake the other lands, where they had long suffered and long dwelt. And some lingered many an age in the Middle Earth. Among those who were Círdan the shipwright and Celeborn of Doriath, with Galadriel his wife, was alone remained of those who led the Noldor to exile in Beleriand. In Middle Earth dwelt also Gil-galad the High King, and with him was Elrond half-elven, who chose, as was granted to him, to be numbered among the Eldar. But Elros his brother chose to abide with Mer, and from these brethren alone also come among men the blood of the firstborn and a strain of the spirits divine that were before Arda. For they were the sons of Elwing, Dyr's daughter, Lúthien's son, child of Thingol and Melian. And Eärendil their father was the son of Idril Celebrandil, Turgon's daughter of Gondolin. But Morgoth himself the Valar thrust through the door of night, beyond the walls of the world, into the timeless void, and a great guard set forever on those walls. And Eärendil kept watch upon the trampers of the sky. Yet the lies that Melkor the mighty and accursed Morgoth Bauglar, the bow of terror and of hate, sowed in the hearts of the elves and men, are seed that does not die and cannot be destroyed, and ever and anon it sprouts anew, and will bear dark fruit even into the latest days. Here ends the Silmarillion. If it has passed from the high and the beautiful to darkness and ruin, that was of an old faith of Arda, married. And if any change shall come and the marring be amended, Manwë and Varda may know, but they have not revealed it, and it's not declared in the dooms of Mandos. Here the fate of Melkor was to throw into the darkness or the timeless void. Here means the Ea or the universe, but not the timeless void, as it's required a direct intervention from Eärendil. But here means the outside of Arda, where he's still roaming in the darkness, and yearning to return to Arda. But it said that in the rumor or in the future he will return by help of his servants, and a great battle will happen, but not now. And it's after all the content of this battle is abandoned by j.r.r. Tolkien, the narrative of this tales. And here ends of this chapter. Oh, that content.